Okay, so Mr. Gerber back again. So we're kind of halfway-ish through the stuff on pre-modern Europe, so before the Renaissance. So in the last one, we talked about kind of the end of Rome and the switch between the Byzantine East and the non-Byzantine or the Catholic Christian West. They kind of developed out of the birth or the fall of the Roman Empire. So we talked about, comparing the two together, why they were different, what similarities they had, as well as also looking at the religious differences as well. And then we also talked about primarily finishing up on the social and economic systems of the time period in the Middle Ages or the medieval period within Europe, looking at this issue here of feudalism and the manor, or feudalism and the estate system, as well as the manor system as well. So what we're going to look to do in this video is to kind of go beyond that and talk about other expansions within Western Europe that allowed it to kind of rebuild going forward towards the Crusades and then afterward. All right, so looking at the expansion of agriculture and then the expansion of other economic systems within towns, guilds, and so on and so forth. All right, so the benefits of expanded agriculture. So while Western Europe was struggling to kind of rebuild after the fall of the Roman Empire because of numerous invasions, both from the Muslims coming up from the south, but also from Germanic tribes coming in from obviously like Germany, and then also the Vikings invasions and constant warfare, did not necessarily allow for, as we said in the previous video, an expansion or a solidified one unified Europe at any one given point. So you see, some empires kind of pop up here and there, like the Carolingian Empire. Doesn't really last very long through, the reign of Charlemagne. We kind of see the beginnings of the Holy Roman Empire, which is not really Roman. It's not really an empire, kind of thing that exists in name only, but can kind of expand or shrink based on the leadership that is at hand. But one thing that kind of, as trade continues through this end, benefiting as a result of the Silk Roads through the Byzantine Empire, which gets then added through to Western Europe over time very slowly, what we begin to see is an expansion of agriculture. And so kind of here are the benefits as a result. So the addition and creation of technology and innovations such as the horse collar, all right, that allows, kind of this image here gets a little bit cut off with my face over it. But the horse collar itself is a good way to attach plows to horses and other animals such as ox and mules, and so that they can pull carts, they can pull wagons, they can pull plows to dig into the land very well without actually choking the animal, thus making it, kind of putting it more on its shoulders, so that's able to plow the fields more efficiently and at the cost of not killing the animal. All right, then also the addition of horseshoes to make it easier for them to walk through, the heavy steel plow to dig further in. We kind of mentioned that in a little bit in the last video. The addition of water and windmills, again, allowing for more power, a lot of more industrial grazing, increases the amount of agriculture. And then also the use of the three field system, all right, where essentially one field is used for one type of crop, another is used for a different type of crop, that you can do one in the spring, one in the fall, and then one you kind of let recover for a couple of years in order to preserve the nutrients within the soil rather than to continually exhaust it by using the soil over and over and over again. So that was kind of their version of taking care of things previously, to try and preserve what they could of their agricultural systems. All right, so as a result of these advantages in technology and innovations, fewer people need to actually work in agriculture. So again, as we've said in a lot of other cases throughout this course, all right, the fewer people you need in agriculture, the more people that can do other things. So that also leads to an increase in population, and then people, again, moving towards the cities. Now, mind you, that's not a very large amount, because again, there's not a whole lot of massive towns at this point in history, especially within Western Europe. But again, they are kind of growing for the first time since the Roman Empire. And this is kind of happening in the late, before 1000 CE, kind of going into that, and then kind of slowly building from there. And then obviously, as a result of this additional food, right, people don't need to work in agriculture, and then there's also better supports for a larger urban population that did not exist previously, the last couple hundred years. Right, but that also benefits more people to work in different trades and manufacturing of textiles, jewelry, other goods that, again, people would find valuable and to trade beyond just crops. Right, so obviously Europe now has more goods and crops to now trade beyond the Mediterranean, and then we also begin to see an expansion of trade in various parts as well, not necessarily connected just to the Mediterranean towards, the Silk Roads, but also throughout areas like the North Sea, the Baltic Sea, kind of get established here with the Hanseatic League, that have trading posts and towns that begin to ascend and actually expand the strength of towns away from the holistic or rule of a king or the church. All right, and so obviously you can kind of see that there are different routes that they can take to actually get their goods into the Mediterranean. There are other routes they can go, like through Latvia here in Riga, and then also along the coastlines and then into the Mediterranean. So that again begins to help them benefit and add in more money in economics. All right, so some of the negatives, however, of this expanded agriculture, because typically when you are adding in more people, more crops, you do end up seeing negatives to the environment. So increase in deforestation. There's overfishing and overhunting. So again, as you have more mouths to feed, you have to continually feed them, so thus you have to deplete more of your resources. There's an increase in human waste as a result, unfortunately, and then also the water mills causing damage to the ecosystems in terms of the nutrients that are being taken out, as well as kind of where the human waste is going into the water systems that destroys the natural water ecosystems in ponds, rivers, lakes that humans are drawing and using. Now, kind of again going with the expansion and the benefits of that expanded agriculture, right, as people are moving more into towns and trade is growing, that equals the growth of businesses and the towns themselves. Right, so we get that independent trading towns again with the Hansa League and the Hanseatic League. Right, again, these exact towns and ports up here. Gaining more and more wealth as a result of that river and sea trade, and again, more and more people are willing to do so. All right, the increase in workforce leads to the creation of guilds, so kind of a early type union, workforce. Because again, people are becoming very special in terms of their actual crafts. So you can kind of see here in this little thing, what guilds offer to their members, but also kind of, how did they work their way up from apprentice to journeyman to the master. And again, essentially kind of the things that they built. So you can kind of see, drapers, tailors, clock workers, people that died, clothing, so again, you can kind of see that, working with felt and all those things, different types of jobs that essentially you trained your whole life to become a very expert at and then make money in trade and make more money, and you kind of take on people and, get more and more of that experience. And again, these are done in small shops. These are not, massive expansion product ideas. We're not at the Industrial Revolution yet. But again, that increase is leading to more wealth starting to develop in a sense or in these areas, all right? The guilds also regulate the quality products as well as trade, and so they're making more money, saying how much we're going to sell for, how much we're going to get paid for, and then also what is considered a good product versus a poor product. So again, if you're just kind of making shoddy products, they're not going to let you into the guild. So again, even though if you're not necessarily working with this master, you could be collaborating and cooperating with them so that you're selling at a similar price for a similar product. So again, kind of regulating their own trade between themselves. Right. It also serves as a social network and support, and again, that gets mentioned up here. They also, again, as they're trying to limit those lords and kings' ability to tax them and make money off them and to derive their wealth from them. All right, because these independent towns and guilds are trying to essentially establish a middle class for a short period of time, leading into kind of, again, that 1200, 1300 period. And so guilds will actually exist for a very long time, but they get sprung here in the Middle Ages. All right, so again, that more complex division of labor. Again, as an example, or as an excess or a growth of the towns and businesses, we're also seeing obviously growth in banking and credit because trade is expanding, and so as a result, when trade expands, there's a need for more banking and holding on to goods, but also credit and, saying, this is, a little note that says this is what it's valued, and I will trade this for this. So it makes it easier to trade between different countries and different towns, again, especially as that trade is expanding, right? Women are able to dominate some textile industries, and in many cases, women are allowed to join and raise their status and income levels in some guilds. Some guilds are women only. I think the book mentions like there's 5 or 6 of them, and then they were allowed to join a couple different other 100 guilds or so, at least recorded guilds. Obviously, same guilds, but maybe in different towns and countries. But again, that's kind of a small expansion of female progress here, because again, as they're able to work in the guilds and they're able to work in these shops, they're able to earn money, and then that raises their status, their image, their income levels, and their ability to make a living on their own without the need of a man. So again, all that really comes from, again, is that expansion of agriculture mentioned here in that first slide, and then going back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this unit. So in the next one, we're going to talk about the Crusades and then how that leads to, the bubonic plague, or is attached in a way to the bubonic plague. So that's what we can cover up in the next lesson.